Hi, this is Dan with Read Memorial Library, here with my Wacky Wednesday recipe, Bolo Brown. Bolo Brown comes from Game of Thrones, but in a sense, it's really just a perpetual stew. This was common during the Middle Ages, when families only had a cooking source of a fire and a pot. They would just continue cooking in the same pot all year long, adding more water when they needed to add more water, and adding more ingredients when it started to get pretty sparse. Soups and stews are really a common food source just because of how easy they are to cook. As seen in Lord of the Rings, they ate soups and stews quite often because it's easy to do in a campsite. Same with Game of Thrones, it's quite easy to take whatever you have around and toss it into your soup or stew. Now for our stew, we're going to use an oil or grease from our bacon. So first thing we need to do is make sure we have a nice and sharp knife. Every time before you start cutting anything in the kitchen, you should always run your knife over that steel or something else to sharpen it. And chopping that bacon up to about finger width, and then dumping it right into a pot that I have on a burner on medium heat. Now I'm going to cook that bacon until it's nice and crisp. Next, we're going to make our stock. And to add flavor to our stock, we want some aromatics. So here I have carrots and a yellow onion. I'm going to grab my magical dishcloth that I got from some wizards or warlocks in the Tower of Qarth, and voila, they are cut. Don't put your hand under that cloth, they'll get cut. So after the bacon's browned and nice and crispy, remove it, keep the oil inside the pot, and then add in the aromatics, those carrots and onions nice and diced up. While those are browning, let's get our spices together. Here I have some garlic salt, garlic powder. Just going to go ahead and dump that in already, cook that off for a minute, and then add in some flour, about 2 tablespoons. And now we're going to make sure that gets nice and mixed in there, so that way we can just cook off the raw flour flavor. What's happening here is that we're actually going to be making kind of a quick roux for a gravy base, and this is going to help make our stew a little bit thicker. But if you don't really want a thick broth for your stew, you can just go ahead and skip adding flour. Okay, now that's cooked down, going to add in our beef broth. And doing it slowly over time, stirring it in, making sure it's mixed, and see it's pretty thick. And if you don't want it that thick, you can always add some more water if you used all your beef broth. And then just going to add now our dried herbs and ground pepper. So just grinding in some fresh ground pepper, but if you get it from the can, that's fine too. Dropping in rosemary and thyme, and just making sure to mix that in real good. I also upped the heat on this to be a little bit higher since I did just add in a bunch of liquid, and dropping in my bay leaves. There we go, up in the heat, and now that it's at a boil, I'm gonna come stir it again and then lower the heat. Now we want potatoes in our soup, or stew, sorry. So again, using the magic towel, and let's just make sure they're all there, diced, and let's see. Yep, it worked. Now I'm dumping in the potatoes. Give that a nice stir. Make sure everything's mixed in. And then if you get your herbs kind of like up on the side there, you can scrape them down if you want to. But once it's to a nice simmer, lower that heat down to low, and then go ahead and cover it. And right there you already have a pretty good stew. But hey, I want to stretch it out, so I'm adding about half a head of cabbage. Got that chopped up, and I'm going to give it a wash. Just be careful. Checking the potatoes, and they are fork tender. So this is already done and ready to eat, but I don't mind my cabbage being on the raw side. It's going to give it a nice crunch, so that way I'm not tempted to put crackers in later. So now I'm going to go ahead and dump in that cabbage, and it can just rest on top for a while. It'll steam itself. And just go ahead and cover that up. Forgot to take out the bay leaves. It's a lot easier when there's not a bunch of cabbage in the way. So make sure to do that before you put in your cabbage. Now it's nice and cooked. Grab my spoon, just double check my broth here, see if I got the flavor I want. Check it again, you never know. Gotta double check that. And that's good, yeah. So go ahead and grab a ladle and grab a brown bowl for your bowl of brown. And second ladle full. Kinda hungry. Did a lot of work cooking this. And don't judge me for wearing Crocs. They're comfy. And now we're going to take that bacon that we cooked in the beginning, get the fat from, and add it on top of the soup. Looks nice and pretty. And go ahead and take a spoonful and let's see how it tastes all in the end. Get potato, cabbage, carrot in there, and it was delicious.